Hi there, you are listening to the Guitar Speak podcast. My name's Matt Wakeling and I'm very glad that you've joined us today. We're up to episode number 4 and I've got to say I'm having a lot of fun talking to a whole bunch of great people about guitars, about building them, about playing them, all sorts of stuff, and there's a lot of great interviews to come, so keep tuning in. We're on, just to remind you, we're on SoundCloud, we're on iTunes, we're on Stitcher, we're also on Facebook. You can email us at guitarspeakpodcast@gmail.com, and we've just hooked up an Instagram account, so we'll stick some stuff on there soon. Now for today's episode, I'm speaking to a friend of mine, Pat Keegan, a guitar builder from the south coast of New South Wales, down Ulladulla, which is an absolutely beautiful coastal town. If you've ever been there, you know what I'm talking about. But Pat makes these beautiful guitars. I came across his stuff through a Facebook collision. A friend was posting these guitars saying, check out these guitars my father-in-law's making. And I had a look and they're, wow, amazing. So one thing led to another, and eventually Pat was building me a guitar. This is the guitar you can see on the Facebook banner of the Guitar Speak podcast, or it's also, I think, on our SoundCloud page as well. I'll stick some other pictures up of the of this guitar and other guitars that Pat's built. But so I'm possibly biased. I'd like to say I'm biased in an informed way. The guitar Pat built me was a cross between a Jazzmaster and a semi-hollow Telecaster. Sort of like a Jazzmaster vibe with Telecaster electronics, and man, I am loving this guitar. It is so punchy and versatile. I'm using it on heaps of different gigs, and it's pretty much the only electric I'm playing at the moment. You might recall in, I think it was episode 2, we were talking to Michael Dolce about his signature series Charles Celia guitar, which is, it's got a Telecaster vibe, and he was saying he wasn't really a Telecaster guy, and then I guess the light bulb went off, and definitely the same sort of story for me. So yeah, where I've got lots of interviews coming up with people building guitars, but the first guy I did want to talk to was the guy who built mine, so let's get straight to it. Here's my conversation with Pat Keegan from Pat Keegan Guitars. Pat Keegan, welcome to the Guitar Speak podcast.
Thanks, Matt.
So before you were building guitars, you were a guitar player. When did you get started on guitar?
Well, I suppose I was about 14. I had a hand-me-down nylon string from my brother, but I'd found rock music, so that didn't last too long, and I moved on to... I had a job in the holidays with the waterboard digging trenches, and the money from that I bought myself a bass guitar and amp. I was very keen to play bass.
Excellent.
So I was about 15 back then, and I've just turned 60, so that's going back a few years.
That's a lot of playing. That's great. What do you remember the bass?
Not really, because apart from the fact that it's so long ago, I'd actually wanted to be a lead guitar player, so I did buy an electric six-string when I was 40 years old. I'd played either bass or acoustic guitar up until that stage, and an electric six-string really opened up a new world to me.
Great.
It's wonderful.
And what was that guitar?
It was an American Standard Fender Telecaster.
Nice.
So I suppose I've had a love affair with Telecasters for the last 20 years.
Excellent.
Most of the guitars I make myself are sort of Telecaster copies.
Yeah, right. So what sort of bands did you do, I guess, between then and now?
Okay, well, back in the 80s when beards and bush music were popular, we had a bush band. We ran that for a long time down here in Ulladulla. Mm-hmm. We were called Pat Keegan and the Loaded Dog. And we moved from there back to the music of our childhood, back to loud rock music.
Okay, yeah.
And eventually the bush band became a rock band, and we changed our name to The Ruins.
Excellent.
We thought that was quite appropriate for a bunch of older musicians.
That's cool.
Still playing rock music.
Awesome. So
we're still operating as we're still going as The Ruins.
Great. And what kind of loud rock music do you guys do?
A lot of original. I suppose we do about 50-50 covers and original.
Okay.
Everything from surf through to swamp and funk, all with a bit of a blues undertone.
Cool. Very good. So when did you make the transition to go from playing guitars to add building guitars to your list of skills?
That happened about 5 years ago, Matt, when my brother put together a parts guitar for me, and I thought, I could probably do that. So I was reasonably keen on having a go at a bit of woodwork, and I got hold of some Oregon pine from a mate and put the first one together. Just bought a Squire neck and put that onto it.
Yeah.
And it's still out on the side veranda, aging as we speak. Yeah. The other thing that, apart from making sawdust, which I really enjoy, the other skill that I had to get going was spray painting.
Okay.
I'd never spray painted before, so I was keen to try the high gloss lacquer finish.
Right. Yep.
So I'm not too bad at the spraying, but yeah, it's a different sort of skill.
Seen and owned one of your guitars. I think you're doing a pretty great job. They look fantastic. Those guitars.
Thank you for saying that. But a lot of the guitars that I've been making recently are not quite what you'd call a factory finish. I've been mucking around with some burnished wax finish.
Okay.
And I'm kind of happy with the outcome, especially when that's teamed up with recycled timber.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask. You seem to do. You use lots of timbers. But yeah, definitely recycling, reusing timbers seems to be one of your things. What's going on there?
Well, I suppose I see all this nice, interesting-looking timber going to waste, being burnt. So I got hold of a pine pallet, and I took it apart and experimented with laminating it together to get a Telecaster body.
Awesome.
And I was very happy with the outcome. You'd think pine, well, you're not going to get a real good sound out of pine, but what I'm doing is matching the pine with a brass tone block.
Okay.
Where the string ferrules would normally go for a string through body. I put it's a solid chunk of brass that the strings get fed through, and it really improves the sustain and the sound of the guitar. So when you match that with some nice pickups and some pallet pine, the outcome is quite good. I'm happy with it.
That's great. I've seen a few of those. They look really cool. They look like those guitars have lived a bit before they were guitars.
Yeah. I don't take all the marks off the pine. I let them tell their story.
Nice. They're what do you call those things?
Pallet cast.
Pallet cast. That's such a great name. I love it. Have you used fence palings as tops, or have I seen something with fence?
Well, it's funny that you should ask that, Matt. I did a short scale bass.
Okay.
With the body was New Guinea rosewood.
Yeah.
And the top had was a 6mm laminate of fence palings.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I remember seeing that. That looked awesome. Like there was still some nail holes and wear and tear. Awesome. So that was more a laminate top idea for the fence.
Yeah. Rather than the whole body out of fence palings, that could have been a little bit on the heavy side.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's really cool. What other recycled timbers have you used?
Well, I keep an eye on one of the local window manufacturers. Rubbish skip, because they take out a lot of when they're doing renos for people, they take a lot of Pacific maple window architraves out. So
okay,
I've had some nice Pacific maple out of their skip. What else? It was mainly the pallets. And there's some
Cool.
pallets that you can get that aren't made in Australia that are from, say, Sweden or Japan or places where they have different species of pine.
Okay.
And some of them are quite spectacular.
Wow.
It moves up a notch in terms of appearance.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
so you've got your A grade pallets and your B grade pallets.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it before like that, but
Yeah.
that's exactly what it is.
That could be a marketing angle, I reckon.
Yeah.
A grade pallet. So what about some of the more, well, I was going to say conventional tone woods, but you like to use a lot of Australian timbers as well, different Australian timbers.
Yeah, I do. I've used Australian red cedar, which I like. It's very similar to South American mahogany in its a workability and its, I suppose, its qualities as a tone wood.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I've used some Queensland Kauri pine. There's some places around that recycle commercially.
Okay. Yeah.
I got hold of some Queensland Kauri pine from a crew in Melbourne. This was salvaged from a sugar warehouse in far north Queensland.
Oh, okay.
So I thought that was pretty cool for some chunks of wood to end up coming from far north Queensland and go into guitar bodies.
That's great.
That's interesting.
It's nice that they've got
there's a lot of.
It's nice that they've got a story, a pre-guitar story. Some of these things.
Yeah. I think that's pretty cool, and I like to see stuff that's got a bit of character to it rather than just factory finish.
Yeah.
One-dimensional.
Yeah, sure.
My guitars tend to be have a lot of character to them.
Yeah, I would agree. Absolutely. I think it's fantastic.
Hey, look, having said that, there's some nice timber I get from a crew in Queanbeyan. They saw it up for me so I can do laminate drop tops like American ash.
Yeah.
Which is just wonderful to use.
Awesome.
American cherry.
Yeah. Great. I remember. I know my guitar, the semi-hollow jazz caster or telemaster, whatever you want to call it. I think that's Victorian ash, which is typically quite heavy. Is that right?
Yeah, and what I tend to do with that I reckon that type of timber lends itself well to the semi-hollow electrics.
Yeah, which is the case.
It's a little bit extra work,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I like it. I think it's it works out well.
Yeah.
Once it's hollowed out and you put a laminate top on it, it's usually a playable weight.
Yeah, definitely mine. I think I'm quite proud. I think mine number 16 Pat Keegan guitar was the first semi-hollow, and definitely a good weight.
Could well have been, yes. Yeah, okay.
Cool. Yeah, I remember you saying, I'm thinking about doing a semi-hollow. What do you think? And I thought that was a good idea. I was into that.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So that's
and
got
of course, it gives you a lot more timbers that are usable than if they're slightly heavier than you would normally use.
Okay. Yep.
And some of those heavier timbers are quite funky in terms of their tone.
Yeah. Right. Cool.
I think yours has got pickups by a guy from California called Jocelyn Dominger.
That's right. Yeah.
Slightly hotter than normal tele pickups, but maybe the match with the harder species of timber is a good match. Yeah,
I'm loving those pickups. There are the Dominger Twang Masters. So there are
Twang Masters, yes.
So they're a hot output telly kind of thing. So that was a great recommendation. I'd never heard of Dominger until you mentioned that, and they're great.
Well, look, one of the things that I find very interesting about putting my own guitars together is that there are just so many pickup manufacturers out there who are doing really good stuff with pickups.
Yeah, you've developed some relationships with a bunch of pickup guys. Hey, what are some of the Who are some of the pickups that you use?
Well, the top, what I consider to be the top of the line boutique pickups are Jason Lollar.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what's happened with manufacturers like him is that they've possibly got a little bit bigger than they wanted to originally.
Okay.
And there are some smaller boutique makers who are keen to look after the smaller guitar manufacturer.
Yeah.
People like Tim McNally
Okay.
Ontario in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Makes really nice pickups, and as it treats me really well as a smaller builder.
Yeah, cool. I love that you can build a relationship with a guy on the other side of the world, and you start working together and doing some cool things. That's great.
Definitely. So he's making what you'd consider to be standard Telecaster pickups, but he's also doing T90 pickups, which are P90 pickups sort of shoehorned into the shape of standard Telecaster pickups.
Okay,
they've got a lot of they're
so what was that, a T90? Really did you call it?
T90.
Okay.
T90s.
Nice.
So a lot of the manufacturers are making those, but I'm very happy with Tim McNally's.
Yeah.
They kind of need adult supervision.
Yeah.
They can get away from you a bit.
Okay. Yeah. So you need to be in control of your guitar. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. An adult to turn them down occasionally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the other pickup manufacturers that I've been using lately is a crew from the UK called Warman.
Okay, yeah.
And I've been using some of their T90 pickups in tellies.
Okay. Do they make
I really like those.
Do they make crazy high output humbuckers for the metal guys?
They could. I think they could. Yeah.
Okay, but they do. So you use their P90s, you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, both their soap bar P90s and their dog ear P90s.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And I really like those. But I always come back to the Tim McNally.
Okay.
Because very consistent product with good finish. He'll do the wiring as I like them. Just so easy to deal with.
Yeah,
Special bills, I'd probably go more towards the Jason Lollar top end stuff.
Okay, yep. I saw you had you made a couple of telly styles with the full size humbuckers. Were they the Lollars?
Yes. Yeah, they were Lollar Imperials.
Okay.
But the other thing that's making life a little difficult at the moment is the exchange rate.
Sure.
A set of Lollar Imperials is probably, including shipping, is probably coming in towards $500 Australian.
Okay, yep. So I guess, does that depend on the client and what they're looking for and their budget and that sort of thing? Yeah, sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if I'm building, I don't build a lot of spec guitars these days, but occasionally I'll do, and I'll usually load them with McNally's.
Okay, yep. So when you say spec guitar, what do you mean by that?
A spec guitar is one that I'll build because I want to build it.
Okay, yeah.
It's not commissioned, and I'll throw it on Facebook and see if anyone's interested in buying it.
Yeah, right. Cool.
Most of my sales go through Facebook.
Okay, well that's how I found you actually, a friend of a friend, and thought these guitars look alright. I should talk to this fella. So yeah, interesting.
Yes, the crazy world of e-commerce via Facebook.
Yeah. Yep. So what about hardware? I know my guitar's got the Joe Barden bridge with the brass saddles, the angled brass saddles, so it stays in tune.
Brass saddles.
That's the one. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Do you still use those, or what sort of hardware have you been using?
I do. I tend to use Wilkinson short or chopped bridges these days.
Oh, okay, because that works in with the brass block. Is that?
It does, but it also, if I'm using P90s, I'm not
okay.
using your standard Telecaster plate.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm using a lot of Wilkinson chopped bridge. They still have that the compensated brass saddles.
Okay, yeah.
Hardware. I've got a local guy here in Ulladulla who makes some bridges for me out of brass.
Okay, cool.
He's got an engineering place, and he can mill them for me. And I kind of like that, to be able to use something local.
Yeah, nice. That's cool.
The hardware I use. The tone box I get from a guy in Austin, Texas, Armadillo Guitars. He makes the brass tone blocks.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, nice.
About it.
And with necks, what do you do there?
Okay, most of the necks, again, because I'm saving something for when I retire, most of the necks all of the necks I use are either recycled second-hand necks or new necks from Warmoth.
Okay, yeah.
Custom guitar parts.
Great.
In Washington. So the second-hand ones that I repurpose, I get from the States, and they're usually Indonesian made necks, which I'm very, very happy with.
Yeah, right.
And once they've been tweaked and had a fret level and polish and a setup, they play like magic.
Yeah, cool.
The Warmoth give you they have a much wider range of timbers available and options for the necks, and you can pay a lot of money for a Warmoth neck.
Yeah.
So I usually use the Warmoths for commissions. Guitars.
Sure.
And I use my repurposed necks for my other bills.
Cool. I bought a Warmoth neck in 1992, I think, which I'm still using.
That's an old one. That's going back.
Yeah. I think back then they had two styles of neck. You could get a fat one or you could get a normal one. And they had all. Right. Yeah, I mean they did the vintage radius and the compound. Mine's a compound, and I love that. It's a great neck. They make really cool stuff. So
well, I'm just about to get hold of a jig. A neck routing or a neck profiling jig from a guy in the Netherlands. So that's my next big step in the world of guitar making.
Great, very cool. I love it that you've got such an Australian vibe with your stuff, but you've also got these connections all around the globe. That's really cool. I like that idea of it's quite a communal kind of a thing.
It is, and it's. In this day and age, and I personally, I think we're lucky to be living in this age because we have communication possibilities that were unknown, and even 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just amazing to be able to chat and establish relationships with small makers around the globe.
Yeah, cool.
Just send off a message. Tim, I need a set of T90s. Yeah, no worries, Pat. It'll be in the mail tomorrow.
Awesome.
So, great.
Hey, that said, most of your guitars you'd sell in Australia, but some of your guitars have ended up overseas as well, haven't they?
I have a good client in Indonesia who's got 3 of my guitars now. So I'm kind of happy with that. One of my guitars has gone to the States. It's a hard market to get in. Not that I'm not really trying to get into any particular market, but that was kind of nice to send one over there.
Yeah, cool. Well, I guess with the flip side of the Australian dollar at the moment is that people from the States wanting to buy a custom-made Australian guitar would get a pretty good deal.
Well, they're virtually getting a 25% discount.
Pat, what's on the workbench at the moment?
Moment is a Telemaster, which is going to have some McNelly P90s in it. I have a client who's fairly keen to use some McNellys.
Cool.
And that's going to be black.
Nice.
And it's going to be dyed and have a burnished Canuba wax finish.
Oh, cool.
So it'll be super smooth.
Nice.
but it won't look like it's come out of a factory.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And is that a
what's
commission?
there at the moment.
Is that a commission or
Yes,
just
it
something
is.
you're doing yourself?
Yeah, that's
cool.
a commission.
Fantastic. So lots of people getting in touch. That's great.
And, I think one of the things, people have started seeing me use P90s in the tellies.
Yeah,
and they're saying, oh, yeah, I kind of like the idea of that.
Yeah.
They're trying it and they like it.
I think for people interested in tellies, I think the P90 is a logical kind of next step, in terms of a bit of gnarliness and
yes,
a bit of vibe to your
gnarliness.
tone.
Yeah, a nail caster.
Yeah, but 4 P90s, that could be one.
Oh, yeah.
So,
okay.
Pat, if people are keen to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
They can drop me a line, drop me an email at Keegan Guitars 2539. That's all. 2539 at gmail.com.
Okay, great.
Yeah, or they can also leave messages on my blog site. If they want to go to patkeeganguitars.blogspot.com.
Okay, cool.
They can leave messages on that.
Great. And there's a Facebook page?
Pat Keegan Guitars.
Great.
Yeah, I'm just on Facebook.
Cool. And there's lots of cool pictures and videos and things there of your stuff, so people can check it out.
There is. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Pat, thanks so much for joining me today. Really fun to talk about what you've been up to and talking about my guitar a bit. As I'll say in the intro to the show, I love it. I've been playing it on so many different gigs. I'm using it on cover gigs, and there's a post-rock album I'm tracking at the moment. It sounds great on that. I use it for ambient stuff, and I played at church and all around the place. So it's such a fun guitar. So
I appreciate you saying that, and it's part of the pleasure. It's one of the great pleasures, I should say, about putting these guitars together. It's not the money. It's more about people enjoying what I'm putting out.
That's fantastic. Cool.
So thank you very much for the opportunity, and I also look forward to listening to some of your other podcasts. Cool.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. Well,
thanks, Matt.
Have a great day.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Well, there you go. That's our talk with Pat Keegan from Pat Keegan Guitars. I love talking to Pat. He's a really good guy and makes super cool guitars. So check out his Facebook page or get in touch with him via any of those other methods that he mentioned during the interview. Alright, that's just about it for us this week. So thanks again for joining us. This was episode 4 of the Guitar Speak podcast. Lots more interviews to come. So keep in touch. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. You can actually get the podcast for free download or just to listen to online at iTunes or Stitcher or SoundCloud. Alright, thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.